Good evening, everyone. How are you? It's Friday, and it's time for a beer. So if you'll excuse me, I shall just take care of some urgent business. And, well, what sort of weeks everyone had? It's been a busy one for me, as always these days. It seems to be just aren't enough hours in the day, really. Still loving the, let me just hold it up, the signature guitar. Been playing that most of the day. So, as is customary at this point, I shall let you know what's coming up on the channel in the next few days. Excuse me. Oh, yes, I should say, before we get into that, happy Thanksgiving. I see Robert Bryant there just mentioned it. Happy Thanksgiving to all of the stateside viewers. It's not a big thing over here in the UK. Well, it's not a thing over here in the UK. It's not something we do, but to all of those people who do celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving belatedly. I believe when was it? Thursday? Yes, what's coming up on the channel in the next few days? Right, well, tomorrow is a bit of a Saturday type video where there's a bit of a solo and then I explain what's going on. I can't remember. I think the video is titled Give Me 10 Minutes and I Can Make Your Soloing More Memorable. So that sort of sets the tone of it. Then, here's one for the real rock trivia nerds amongst you. Monday, I'm doing a solo analysis. And which solo is it? Well, now then. Let me tell you, well, if I was to say the year 1903, then the year 1915, then the year 1927, and then the year 1939, and every other 12th year in that cycle, every 12 years, what do all those years have in common? Just anybody got any clue about the years 1903, 1915, 1927, and so on, every 12 years? That, if you know if you know what I'm talking about, then you'll know what solo we're looking at. No, not Crossroads. No. Hi, Tony. Says, cheers, John from the US. Nice to be joining you today since the Thanksgiving holiday after. Oh, well, good for you, mate. Good for you. It's always nice to have a day off for whatever reason, isn't it? Be your own noon. Yes. Well, noon is kind of the sun is over the yard arm by then. Evening, Dan. How are you, mate? Long time no see. Hope you're well too, mate. Peter Collins has got it. Yes, Year of the Cat. That is the solo that we're looking at on Monday. Then Tuesday we are looking at another album that I absolutely adore. I'm trying to win a few converts to that album and the band in question. I think it's 1975 this album came out, and I think it's one of the best progressive rock albums ever made. I think it's up there with all of the big prog rock albums, like Tales from Topographic Oceans, which I don't really like that much, to be honest, or Dark Side of the Moon, which I do. It's up there with those, but it doesn't get a lot of praise. So I'm just giving it a little bit of love on Tuesday. Then Wednesday, we are looking at the next installment of my blues lead guitar series that I'm putting together, and it's going to be scary stuff for a lot of people. It's going to be introducing modes into the blues, and what I'll guarantee is there will be some people who will watch that video and think, oh, I'm doing that anyway, I didn't know. No, it's not classic rugby matches, Robert. I'm afraid we've already nailed it. It's Year of the Cat by Al Stewart. And then Thursday. Well, the Thursday videos at the moment are a little bit like the empty plinth in Trafalgar Square. It could be anything. I keep thinking of having this idea of doing a video about my first ever recording rig. The only problem is that it would be good in that video to play some recordings from that period, from the 90s. And I'm scratching my head and hunting high and low, and I can't find any of them anywhere. So I'll keep you posted. But there will be a video on Thursday, and then Friday, as obviously, we're back on the beer again. So Nancy, you've got it in one. Snow Goose by Camel. Yes. There are times when I thought I was the only person who knew of that album. So it's it's gratifying to know that somebody else is it is Podrig. Yeah, Snow Goose. Fantastic album. Best album they ever did, I think. For me, their kind of golden period was up to about 79 when they did when they did that album, I Can See Your House From Here, was it called? Which wasn't a bad album, but, the Snow Goose just, I think, stands head and shoulders above all of their work. Maybe Moon Madness as well, that's a good album. But, the Pete Barden era, Phil. Yes, exactly. Well, that didn't last long, did it? Mind you, I've been waiting a week for it, so... Excuse me while I just recharge my flagon of ale. Hey, John, when you selected Vanson pickups for your custom guitar, was the builder surprised? No, because his guitar, the guitar that I reviewed, his kind of guitar that he built for himself, his prototype, he put Vanson pickups into that after hearing my review of them that I did when I put them into the Harley Benton PRS copy, and he was blown away by them. And as I said, I mean, there are pickups out there that I could have chosen, but the one thing that I really wanted, as well as that nice warm humbucker classic PAF sound, was I wanted a convincing single coil sound when you chop them in half. And I often find, and I don't know whether it's by accident or design, that Vanson pickups give me that. But they do. So it was like, kind of stick with the devil, really. And other pickups might have might just inch forward by your nose in terms of the humbucking sound, but they seem to... I've never really found any other brand of humbuckers that give me a good single coil sound when you chop them in half. Evening, Saji. How are you, mate? Evening, Craig. How are you? Is the 6 pints pictured on the thumbnail the number of pints you quaff during the live stream? No, I bring 4 beers up with me from the fridge downstairs for the live stream, and they usually last me this hour. The thing was, if I brought 8 up, 8 would last me. Evening, Steve. Oh, I just want to give a big shout out. If you're not doing anything at 7 p.m. UK time, Steve Hoggett there has a video premiering, so I thought I'd give that a plug for Steve. You'll find him if you just look for 27D Productions. He's a studio maestro and bass player extraordinaire, so go and check out his video and learn some useful stuff. I will be there. Well, the missus will be watching, soaps or something, so I shall be sitting there watching it on my phone with my headphones in. Where are we? Just drink till it's in focus. John looks out of focus. Yeah, I have a new light, one of those ring lights, and I've been getting mixed comments on it, actually. Some people say that the picture looks sharper with it, and other people are saying that it looks out of focus. Maybe it is just my face, I mean, it's I keep thinking about getting a better webcam, but you really don't want to see this face in 4K, to be honest with you. Hi, John. Your thoughts on Gretch guitars? Well, I did. I've done a couple of videos in the past couple of weeks about guitars I lusted after, and one guitar that was on that list was a Gretch. I think it was the Gretch Chet Atkins that Brian Setzer kicked off his career within the Stray Cats, and I got to play one of I think it was one of the Streamliners about 18 months ago, and it was a guitar I would have had to got used to, put it that way. It felt really, really nice, but there was this weird disconnect, okay, because it feels like a big, chunky, hollow-bodied guitar, which it is. It's, but it felt like I was playing an acoustic guitar, but, I was playing an electric guitar, and it was just that sort of, a little bit like, I suppose, imagine if you're driving, a little two-seater sports car that feels like a four-wheeler, kind of a 4x4 kind of thing. It just, there was some sort of cognitive dissonance between what I was feeling and what I was hearing. But very, very well-built guitars, beautiful sound, and great guitars. If you're thinking of pulling the trigger and that's what you're after, then, grab one. Hi, John. What's your usual method for conquering difficult riffs or phrases? Do you slow your playing down or just plow on through? Never, ever, ever just plow on through. If you just try thinking, okay, I'll get it fast and then I'll kind of get it right, you'll never get it, in my experience anyway. What you should do is, first of all, identify the trickiest bit of the tricky riff, okay? Because there'll usually be, most of it you can kind of do, but there'll be one little bit that is just kind of giving you the headache, and then concentrate on that. And in the past, I've spent like a week or 10 days working on like a 4 or 5 note phrase in the middle of a solo, and just kind of get it, metronome it. It really does help kind of alienate a few people here, I suspect, if you read music, or at least if you can read the rhythm notation of the music, because then you can figure out exactly what the proportions of the notes are. Is this a dotted quaver? Is that a kind of triplet semiquaver, or semiquaver triplet, or something like that? And you can kind of get the proportions of it right at a much slower speed and get it into muscle memory. That's how I do it anyway. Hi, John. What's your take on treble boost? If buying, which one? It's never something that's crossed my radar, to be honest with you, Dave. It's it's never an effect that I've thought I need to have one of those. I know a lot of people kind of use them, and it gives their sound more bite and more sustain and more treble, funnily enough, for a treble boost. But I've always just gone with, the kind of sound that I can get. I've always been lucky, I suppose, in that I can always get like a good or a pleasing to my ears anyway sound out of whatever rig I've been plugged into. Well, unless we're talking about the Line 6 pod, which was just, well, less said about that the better. I've never had a treble boost. Maybe that should be something I should look into. See, I'm not just drinking beer here. I'm doing research and development for the channel. This is work. Beer here. I'm doing research and development for the channel. This is work. I'll tell the missus that in a minute. Just Chris Jones, evening all. I've got some Iron Gear rolling mill pickups to put in Epiphone Les Paul. Wiring is completely different. Any pointers where to start? I can't afford to pay anyone at the moment. I've put Iron Gear pickups into guitars before, and if it's been a while, but if I remember correctly, you can go to the Iron Gear website and download wiring diagrams, or a brand like Iron Gear, they're well known. I'm sure there will be a wiring guide somewhere on YouTube. The last Iron Gear pickup I installed, you can see on that sort of bits and pieces parts caster telly. Where are we? Over there, behind me. You can see it on the wall behind me. And I'm pretty sure I got the wiring diagram from the Iron Gear website for that. So that would be first port of call. And Iron Gear are a small company, you know, and I've always found their customer service to be pretty good. So just drop them a message, drop them an email, and say, "Can you give me some help with the wiring?" You know. John, are you a Springsteen fan? And if so, have you heard the new album? I am a Springsteen fan. Well, let me qualify that. The Springsteen albums I like, I really, really, really like. You know, I mean, what would I say? Born to Run, obviously. Darkness on the Edge of Town, The River. Wasn't keen on Nebraska at the time, but it grew on me. Born in the USA, you know, I mean, that went stratospheric. What was the album that came after that? The one with, was it called Brilliant Disguise, or was that the single that came off it? Wasn't that one never kind of chimed with me? And, you know, and then there was like, I don't know, just a bunch of albums that I never really took a lot of notice of. And then the one that really, really, if you don't know it, it's just check it out. The Bruce Springsteen and the Sessions Band, or the Sega Sessions Band, where he's doing all this old kind of Cajun Zydeco stuff. Fantastic album. I haven't heard the new album, but it's on my to-do list. I've just been at the moment. I tend to like to get into one new album at a time, and at the moment I'm just currently absorbing the new AC/DC one, not Thunderstruck, Power Up. Why did I say Thunderstruck? I'll tell you why I said Thunderstruck, because before the live stream I was something else I was going to talk about. Might as well talk about it now. Has anybody else come across this thing called bardcore, where there's like, you know, they're doing, it's a bit like the sort of Hayseed Dixie kind of thing, you know, the kind where they do bluegrass versions of rock classics. Well, this is like all sort of medieval takes on rock classics, using kind of lutes and harps and recorders and stuff, and it's just amazingly good. And I just listened to a version of Thunderstruck. So, you know, done in that style. Yeah, Chip, mate, I know what you mean. That if my exposure to Springsteen had been certain albums like you know, albums whose names escape me at the moment because they were that forgettable, then that would be my impression of Springsteen. But you know, what I would say is, you know, just kind of check out all of his catalogue before you make a decision. It's a bit like, I suppose it's a bit like Paul McCartney in a way. You don't have a career, or Eric Clapton, you don't have a career of that length, that many years, without releasing the odd stinker. And I think he has. And all I would say is it's probably not representative of his entire output. Yeah, that Sega Sessions on BBC4, that was great. And that was a special one that they did for the BBC. Which is actually better than the live DVD that they released, which I've got. But I think that version has the edge. And of course, that was one of the ones that somehow I never ended up recording. Greetings from France, says Missing Links. Well, greetings from Redcar. Bottleneck Bob's got himself a new guitar, an Epiphone Les Paul Custom. Yes. I'm thinking about checking out some of these new Epiphones, to be honest with you. I think from what I'm hearing, they've got the because when it first came out, Trogley was doing like a load of videos on them, and he was saying that they're basically good guitars, but they've got rotten setups. But from what I'm hearing now is that they've got the wrinkles ironed out. So I'm thinking of maybe having a look at one of them. Steven Seagal's do a nice version of Thunderstruck. Oh, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that one, but I do know of Steven Seagal's. Oh, you saw Camel at doing Snow Goose live? Yes. Fantastic. I mean, fantastic band they were back in the day, you know, and never really got the recognition they deserved, I think. And that might be a topic for a video, because there's a couple of bands who, you know, never really kind of became as big as they should have been. I mean, Thunder springs to mind. I mean, they still are. But, you know, I think Thunder's debut album, Backstreet Symphony, should have been as big as Appetite for Destruction. I just think it's that good an album. Yeah, Bob, the Nighthawk was Epiphone basically making a kind of a Strat style guitar. You've got like this weird kind of slanty humbucker in the bridge. You've got like a Strat middle single coil and like a little mini humbucker in the neck position. I played one. There was a Gibson Nighthawk that originally came out. I don't know if they're still making those. Which had like, you know, a wiring kind of system from hell, you know, the sort of thing I hate, where you've got kind of push-pull pots that kind of put things, you know, in series and then in parallel and in phase and out of phase, and a couple of different selector switches and stuff. But the Epiphone one, it was just like a 5-way Strat selector switch. And I had a brief play on one a few years ago. It was a great guitar. You know, like a real sort of Strat Les Paul sort of compromise. Before the signature guitar came along, here it is. I'll just mention it again. I was kind of thinking about grabbing one of those as a sort of, you know, kind of Fender Gibson sort of hybrid. Have you got one, Podrig? I didn't know that, mate. There you go. You learned something new every day. Podrig is one of my students, and you know, great player, and he habitually plays an Ibanez Roadstar in the lessons recently. I didn't know you had one of those Nighthawks, mate. Let's have a look at it next lesson. Yeah, the triple humbucker Telecaster. That's the troublemaker thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit kind of OTT. Does anybody else here remember a pickup that you could buy? And I've never heard one to my knowledge, but this was a late 70s kind of thing, where Mighty Might. Do you remember? Anybody else remember Mighty Might as an aftermarket parts brand? Mighty Might used to make a 3-coil pickup that was called the Mother Booker. Exactly. It was, I don't know how it was wired. I don't know how it was, you know, what the extra coil did or anything like that. I just vividly remember it in a Mighty Might parts catalogue that I had back then. And I just don't think I've ever seen one on a guitar or heard one. Oh, Blues Hawk as well. Yes, indeed. Yes, Mighty Might necks. Yeah, they were quite the sort of the replacement brand. And the first time I heard of Schecter, actually, was as like a parts brand that you could buy, you know, like replacement bits for your Strat or whatever. And never heard of them again until, you know, the mid-80s, when suddenly Mark Knopfler's playing a Schecter Stratocaster or Strat type guitar. which I did in that recent video I talked about. Strat type guitar, which I did in that recent video I talked about. Okay, well then, Colin, I didn't know that. Colin's there just saying that Mighty Mike parts were fitted to a lot of the early Squires. I did not know that. You'll notice that beer lasted a lit export lager tonight. I scored a bit of a good one last week because we got a Morrison's delivery, and there was a substitute on the delivery, and I'd ordered this, and they substituted it with pint cans of Carlsberg export, which was a good result. But unfortunately, this was in stock this week. Never mind, it'll do. Hi, John. What do you think of Jan Ackerman? He doesn't get mentioned a lot. Sylvia could make a great video on melody. Yes, I've actually done, and this, I'm letting the cat out of the bag now, but for the Patreon supporters, thank you, everyone, by the way. I'm going to be releasing an album for download on Patreon, just as a bit of a freebie, you know, just a free download on there. And what it is, it's an album full of cover versions that I've done over the years, where I've just covered a song because it's a tune I like. And one of the tunes on there is Sylvia. I did a cover of that a few years ago. And it's a bit sort of esoteric as well. There's like a lot of things in there that you're going to think, what? You know, like old Herb Alpert tunes. And I think there's a version on there of... you know, the old Andy Williams tune, Music to Watch the Girls Go By. That is... Okay, Podrick, I didn't know that. You might still make that pickup, but it's not the 3-coil one. That might be... there might be a kind of a video in that at some point. Yeah, but getting back to the question, what do I think of Jan Ackerman? Yeah, fantastic guitar player. Absolutely fantastic. What do you think of Pete Townshend as a guitarist? He's great. You know, I think he doesn't really... Well, I know, because I've read in interviews with him, he doesn't really think of himself as being a guitarist. He thinks of himself as a songwriter who uses a guitar. And there was dear me, going back to the very, very early days, I've been playing guitar probably about a year or so, I seem to recall. So this will have been about 1979, maybe 1980. There was a radio show on the BBC. I can't remember whether it's Radio 1 or Radio 2, where it was just like about an hour or so of Hank Marvin and Pete Townshend chatting about their influences and playing little bits and pieces of riffs and stuff. And, you know, Hank explaining how he got the echo and Pete explaining how he got the kind of the volume and the overdrive and everything. Really, really great show. I've hunted high and low for like a copy of that audio, but I think it's one of those that has just been lost in the mist of time. Says Paul, oh hi, but you're in Wolverston near Billingham, a local lad, local to me anyway. You've got the Epiphone Les Paul Custom Pro with coil tapping and out of phase, push-pull switches. Had it set up before delivery. It's a great guitar and great quality. Yeah, I mean, Epiphones, you know, they're a great guitar. It has to be said. I do think, and I will say this, that possibly they are a little bit expensive for what they are. In some cases, but you can't knock them on quality. Occasionally, I mean, like with the Trogley's guitar show, they are. He was saying that, you know, he was getting some that were like pretty badly set up, but you know, I mean, Joe Walsh regularly uses an Epiphone, so, you know, what more can you say? Anyway, let's just take a quick look at how we're doing on here. Yep, okay. Pete Townshend is a great rhythm player, but he should stay away from the research. Yes, I think we know what we're talking about there. Indeed, yes. Yeah, less said about that, the better. I've got bills to pay. Any thoughts on Yamaha Rev Stars? Fancy one, can't afford it, and as I can't afford a Yamaha, it's cheap. I've never played a Yamaha Rev Star, but everybody I know who has tried one or played one, a Yamaha Rev Star, but everybody I know who has tried one or played one has said that it's just the best guitar they've ever owned. So, is the Harley Benton as good as an Epiphone or just as good for the money? The thing is, Harley Bentons are, and I'm going out on a limb here, I would say that the only difference between a Harley Benton and an Epiphone is when it gets to the end of the production line, it gets a different badge put on it. You know, what I'm referencing here is that there are certain, like, huge guitar factories across, you know, kind of Indonesia and Korea and nowadays Vietnam. And I know that Harley Bentons are made around all of those places, and so are Epiphones. So I'm gonna assume, I think probably reasonably so, that the factories that make Harley Bentons are also the same factories making Epiphones. So, you know, my only beef with Harley Benton, I do think they are great guitars for the money. And the reason they're so cheap is you're cutting out the middleman, essentially. You know, a guitar that goes from factory to importer to wholesaler to retailer to customer is going to be more expensive than a guitar that goes from factory to retailer to customer. That's why Harley Bentons are so cheap. But they do sometimes lack a little bit of quality control. I will give you that. I'll say sometimes I always put it when I say Harley Bentons, they often outsource the quality customer. But if you're okay doing a little bit of setup work yourself, then you know it's a good way, a cheap way of getting a good guitar. And given what I was saying earlier on about the latest Epiphones having issues with quality control, as has been reviewed in many videos that I've watched, then you know you do sometimes wonder what it is that, you know, if you're paying for that brand name and you're expecting a certain level of quality, then if that quality control isn't there, then you might as well just get the Harley Benton. Recently just played a Harley Benton for the first time and couldn't believe what you got for your money. Yes, I mean, that was my experience when it's why I've done so many videos about them. And there's a few people saying, oh, he's like, John Robson, he's a Harley Benton shill. He's in their pay. No, I'm not. You know, if I was, I would have a Harley Benton signature guitar. Excuse me. But I did that thing through my sort of what I laughingly call a career as a guitar player, where I started off, you know, with cheap, I've mentioned this before, like, you know, the Woolworths Top 20 and the Satellite Les Paul copy in the late 70s, early 80s. And then you gradually kind of work your way up the ladder, and Squires and Epiphones, and then Fenders, and then, you know, kind of American Fenders, and then, you know, PRS and custom shop Fender and stuff like that. And then in 2009, and the rug was pulled out from under a lot of people, me included, with that financial crash. And suddenly I had to sell a lot of stuff and ended up going back to budget guitars again. And, you know, discovered Harley Benton. And it was like, okay, is this what a cheap guitar's like these days? Dearie me, this is good. You know, and that's when I started doing videos about them. Yeah, they're fine guitars. I have one of each Harley Benton and an Epiphone, and I leave my Epiphone in the case. Well, fair enough. Okay, Tony, you've got the Henning Pauly signature model. Yeah, that looked an interesting guitar, actually, didn't it? Like that sort of humbucker and P90. Yes. Oh, by the way, I will tell you, there is another guitar on its way to me. A Glary guitar, which I will be reviewing. 75 quid's worth of Strat copy. Which I'm going to be doing some mods to and getting the and basically kind of, well, upgrading it as much as I can, and that's going to be going to Zoe's place. The problem with Harley Bentons is they just don't look as nice as Epiphones. I know that's shallow, but surely you have to fall in love with the look. Well, fair enough, and I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. My one problem that I have with the Harley Benton, the main Harley Benton that I have, which is the PRS copy, is that it's a really, really, really good guitar that deserves to be judged as a really good guitar in its own right. And if they just made it a little bit less PRS-like and just given it a little bit more of its own identity, and, you know, where it could have been judged as something more than just a PRS copy, that is, you know, that's my issue with them. But it's a small kind of niggly point. I understand that. Yes, thank you, Johnny Random. Since CNC has become widely used, the guitar quality has improved. That's where the setup becomes important. That's done by hand. Hand-built signature guitars are best. Ask John. Yes, did I mention I've got a hand-built signature guitar? Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mikhail. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Very, very generous of you. And yes, I shall make sure it goes to a good cause. Why don't Harley Benton make their CST models with an in-house headstock? It would be much better. Yeah, well, they've kind of taken the PRS headstock and, you know, made it a little bit different, and that's exactly what I mean. If they'd done it, I mean, Peavy made a guitar actually that was, and I can't remember the model number of it, but Peavy did a guitar which was essentially a PRS style guitar, but it was identifiably a Peavy. I tell you, I saw one I saw playing one, a guy called I think he's called Milton MacDonald, who's a session guitarist, and I saw him with in the current line of Jeff Lynne ZLO, and he was playing one, and he was getting a great tone. And he was playing one, and he was getting a great tone out of it, you know, and it was, you know, it was a Peavy, which, you know, Peavy is a great brand, but they're not known for making, you know, boutique guitars or boutique anything for that matter. Peavy make, you know, kind of blue collar kind of equipment, don't they? Just bought the Harley Benton GS Travel in mahogany. Well, fair enough. Oh, Julie, you got that? Yeah, my namesake, same surname. Cheers. What is your most embarrassing moment as a musician, John? So many to choose from. So many to choose from. Oh, dear me. Probably I would have to go back to the time when I played, well, the band I was in played almost an entire set to a dog, because what happened was, I've told this anecdote a few times, but basically what happened was I was in a band and we were booked to do a gig at this social club for a Sunday afternoon and night. So you did the Sunday lunchtime gig and you did the Sunday evening gig. Thank you very much, Robert. Much appreciated, mate. cheers. And essentially on the afternoon gig, you were kind of booked to play with a stripper. Okay, you were kind of, the band would come on and do an hour, then the stripper would come on, and then they'd have a game of bingo, and yeah, an all-male audience playing bingo, and then you would, you know, after the stripper, you'd go on and do another set, and there'd be another stripper. Anyway, long story short, the stripper didn't turn up, and the all-male audience kind of took it out on us, and they were flinging cigarette butts and beer mats, and they had these little bar snacks of Yorkshire puddings with gravy, and we were getting gravy-soaked Yorkshire puddings flung at us on stage as well, you know. And then we sort of disappear into the dressing room to nurse our wounds after the first set and come back out, and the room is empty apart from one little old bloke with his dog. And, you know, we launch into the second set, you know, shot through the heart and you're to blame. And he kind of stands up and goes, "Yeah, noisy buggers," and goes off to play on the fruit machines, the slot machine in the foyer, and leaves the dog there. And we just played the rest of the set to the dog. That was pretty embarrassing. Did you not offer to step in for the stripper? No, dearie me, no. Excuse me. May I drink? What do you reckon Frank Gambale is? Oh, dearie me, look at that. Nothing worse than spilled beer, is there? What do I think of Frank Gambale? Yeah, his wardrobe choice in that Modes video, it was the 80s. And I like his music from that period. You know, I think I had, what was the album, the big album that he had, A Present for the Future. I remember being into that at the time. Then I sort of rediscovered him lately, and it's just a bit too kind of a bit too out there for me. It's kind of falling into that sort of Alan Holdsworth category. And apologies to any Alan Holdsworth fans, but I've tried. I really have with his music. And it's obviously a failing on my part. I'm not getting it, but let's see, the Long Pigs, remember them? I was the only one there. Spent all night chatting to the guy in the desk as I used to work for him. Did you do the Dog? No, I'm just trying to remember what the set list was from back then. I know we used to do Chesney Hawkes, I Am the One and Only, which kind of tells you the time period of it. What else? Bon Jovi, You Give Love a Bad Name. What else were we doing? There was like a Queen medley and a Chris Rea medley, and there was, oh dear me, Smoke on the Water was in the set because that was one of those songs that you just had to play. It was the law at the time. Trying to play an acoustic version of Peter Gabriel's Salisbury Hill turned out to be embarrassing. Yeah, that's one of those songs. It's a song I like, and the reason I like it is because you listen to it and you just realise, well, you just think when you first listen to it, it's just a catchy little tune, and then you try picking it apart and you realise the time signature changes and stuff. It's a really tricky song to play, accurately. John, do you feel the same about Tom Quayle as you do about Alan Holdsworth? To be honest with you, I like Tom Quayle on YouTube. I've never really listened to any of his, I don't know if he has albums out or anything like that, but I find him a really engaging YouTuber and fantastic player. The problem I had with Holdsworth was it was just like, has nobody explained the concept of melody to this chap? You know, saw vid on vintage guitars, got mixed reviews. What's yours? I've owned several vintage guitars. I've owned a vintage semi-acoustic. I think it was the AV3 that I had. I've owned the VS6 SG copy. I've owned the V6 Strat copy, and I've owned the V100 Les Paul copy, and they were all fantastic guitars. So that's, you know, my take on vintage guitars. Great guitars. They were my favourite budget brand guitars until I discovered Harley Benton's, really. I've suffered with my music, now it's your turn, is what we used to say before a gig. I shall remember that one. That's a good quote. Okay, I'm getting messages here that some people are getting a few freezes and buffering. You saw me check the mouse earlier. When I saw me go to the mouse earlier and check the screen, I was just checking my internet connection, and as well as the stream kind of thing that I've got up here, I've also got like you know, a kind of speed monitoring thing, and I'm getting a really good upload speed at this end, according to the site I'm using. So I don't know, it might be at YouTube's end of the equation. What about a Christmas party live stream, John? 2 hours. You read me mind, mate. That is coming. You know, Christmas is a Friday this year, and we've got we've got company staying, you know, because we're allowed apparently. So I won't be doing a stream on Christmas Day. By 5 p.m. on Christmas Day, I will not be in any fit state to do a live stream or much anything else for that matter. But possibly on the 18th, I will be doing something of that ilk, a Christmas party. Oh, by the way, for the Patreon guys, I just finished recording the podcast yesterday, and it's a good one. It really is a good one, if I may say so myself. It's longer than usual, and there's a great solo as well in that, great solo analysis. So we're doing, so you know, if you're a Patreon supporter, you've got a treat coming on Tuesday when all that goes live. I am probably going to be doing a Christmas cover to put up on YouTube. So you shall see. You remember last year I did that charity single for Zoe's Place, that my version of I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. I'm going to be doing another Christmas tune to put up on YouTube. And I thought what I'd do this year is providing it's, you know, I earn any money off it, I will donate the money from that video to Zoe's Place. Oh, vintage as in Gibson 1959 vintage, not vintage. Yeah, well, you know, I don't know. Have I ever really owned or played a really old vintage valuable kind of that kind of guitar? I can't say that I have really. I've played a few old guitars and they've just felt like old guitars. So I don't know. I had a 70s Strat for a little while. Does that class as vintage? And it just felt like a Strat. A very heavy Strat, to be honest with you, and not the best by a long chalk, not the best Strat I've ever played. It was okay. But are you an Albert King fan? Yes, I would say I am. You know, crosscut saw. I mean, fantastic as a point. It's your birthday on Boxing Day. Nice if you could combine the two. Thank you. Oh, dear me. Christmas round, a birthday around about Christmas. That sucks, doesn't it? It must do, because, like, you know. Frog's festive tune, Balls to Christmas. If you've got a video for that, Steve, put it in the comments after the video, after the comments come live, after the video's gone out, and I'll pin it for you, mate. Have you ever been run off a stage for being too weird? No, I can't say I have. I can't say I have. I have been, you know, due to a mix-up with the agent, I have been kind of booed off stage for being, well, just for not being the right style of music. I remember one gig at a club in Darlington somewhere. Can't remember the name of it, but we got booed off because the agent had promised like a Magic of the Musicals band, the best of Lloyd Webber and all of this sort of stuff. Full audience who paid like $5 a ticket to hear, you know, kind of Lloyd Webber tunes and so on. And we come on and start playing blues, and it didn't go down well at all. John, review an Ibanez Roadstar, best Strat type ever. Yes, they were fantastic guitars. You know, it's a case of getting my hands on one at the moment, mate. So, you know, we shall see. Put it that way. Anyone has a Gibson U2 Super Strat? I wonder why they stopped making them. Probably because they weren't selling, mate. You know, I mean, that has been the kind of story for many years, hasn't it? Whenever Fender make a Gibson style guitar, I mean, what was it? The Fender something? It was the one that Robin Ford used, which was like a 335 style guitar, like semi-hollow, fantastic guitar. But, you know, it's like if you're in the market for like a 335 style guitar, you've got to kind of think, well, okay, I don't want the Gibson, I want that one. And same when Gibson made, was it the Gibson Victory guitars that were like sort of super Strat style guitars in the early 80s, that were just, you know, it was Gibson trying to make a Strat, and it just bombed, and they were great guitars. What's for dinner? Dinner tonight is I just got a batch of homemade curry out the freezer, and chuck that in a saucepan, microwave rice, flatbreads, dinner sorted. What album never got its deserved recognition? Me, it's Blue Murder with master guitarist John Sykes on guitar in my top 5 albums of all time. I do know Blue Murder by John Sykes, and I agree with you, mate. Fantastic album, and yeah, it just never kind of took the recognition it deserved. I can't remember the name of the album, to my shame, that I'm going to talk about now, but another great album that never really kind of registered on many people's radars was the debut album by Black Star Riders, which was essentially John Sykes again, wasn't it? You know, because I don't know if it's currently true, but he was certainly in the reunited version of Thin Lizzy. And then they kind of started releasing original material under the name Black Star Riders. And their first album was just fantastic. Gibson leave the Strats alone, and Fender stop sticking humbuckers in Telecasters. Oh, I like a Telecaster with a humbucker. I might have mentioned it. But yeah, this is the thing. I mean, the Fender FMT, is it called? The set neck twin humbucker Telecaster. Great guitar, but you know, it costs the same sort of money as a sort of an Epiphone Les Paul, and you know, it's Caster aren't going to buy it, and people who want a Les Paul aren't going to buy it, you know. Does anyone agree those cheap, nasty kits that come with kits must make for a good speaker cable, as no shield? I don't know. Every Harley Benton guitar you buy comes with a cable, doesn't it? And that just goes straight in the recycling, to be honest with you, for me. Freaking love Scott Gorham, always have. Yeah, a very, very underrated guitar player. You know, and he was, I think he was the glue that held Thin Lizzy together, really, wasn't he? When they were, because you had that other sort of revolving door of guitar players, didn't you? Where there was, Gary Moore, who was out and then he was in, and then he was out and then he was in, and Brian Robertson and Midge Ewer and even Snowy White at one point. If you could have a chat with any guitarist, living or dead, who would it be? Mine's George Harrison. Well, I would have to say, Gary Moore, without a shadow of a doubt. I would just like basically to go back in time and thank him really for being such a big influence on me. You'd ask George Harrison for a shot of his telly. What do you want for Christmas? I don't really, Christmas for me. I mean, I'm a middle-aged man. Christmas for me is, kind of a new pack of Marks and Spencer's undercrackers and some socks and, a nice bottle of whiskey and, maybe an Amazon token, and that's usually what I get for Christmas. And not complaining because it's all, Christmas, and Christmas is all about just the kind of the big meal and the alcohol. It's Christmas Day is the one day a year when it's acceptable to crack open a tin of lager at 10 o'clock in the morning and not get a funny look. So that's what I like about Christmas. Yeah, favorite guitarist Richard Thompson. Yeah, fantastic player. A nice guy as well, apparently, according to everybody who's met him that I know anyway. Rory Gallagher, indeed, Bob. Yes. Again, another really, really nice chap, according to everybody who ever, kind of met him and, had any interaction with him. So I'm just thinking who else it would be other than Gary Moore if it was, kind of somebody I could go back in time and talk to. I don't know, I guess Peter Green, maybe. If you could play in any band, whichever their living dead status, which would it be and why? I've got to say Thin Lizzy. Thin Lizzy or possibly who else? Well, I do remember when Frank Zappa died, thinking, okay, well, that was the finishing school, wasn't it, for many a great guitar player, Adrian Belew and obviously Steve Vai and loads of guys, or Miles Davis, maybe. When we lost those two, it was like, okay, well, I'll never get the chance to be in their band. Not that I would have anyway, but that was like the final that was the definitive kind of thing. I'll never be in Frank's band or Miles's band. So maybe that would have been a wish come true. I'll arm wrestle you for Thin Lizzy, though. Well, fair enough. Maybe we could we could come to an arrangement. Anyway, I've just noticed we've been on about an hour, and my TV show's about to start. I'm about to go downstairs and watch Wheeler Dealers, which is usually on this time on a Friday, and then it'll be curry o'clock after that. So once again, chaps, thank you so much for turning up this this wonderful Friday evening and having a beer with me. It is really, truly appreciated. I'll say it again, it never ceases to amaze me how many people turn up to watch a fat lad drink beer and talk rubbish. But you do every week, and I'm really grateful. But until next time, I will just say for now, time, gentlemen, please.